Hey there guys, I'm real excited about this because this is the first figure that I've bought since I started my YouTube channel, and I've been wanting to add this to my collection for a really long time. However, it was a bit overpriced, but luckily it finally had a bit of a discount and now I get to review it for you guys. I hope you enjoy. When it comes to this 2-pack, it was going for $150 and that is extremely overpriced for what you're getting. I was able to get mine for $128. Now that isn't as low as I would have liked. I wish I could have gotten at least $10 more, but it was close enough that I was willing to bite the bullet. Now to be perfectly honest, the main reason I wanted to get this 2-pack was not for the Batman, it was actually for the Robin. For those of you who aren't aware, this Robin is actually female. The reason that's important is because when it comes to my favorite franchises, any female I can add to my action figure collection is always going to be a priority for me. Now, despite this Robin being the reason I wanted to get the 2-pack in the first place, it's also the reason why I couldn't justify getting it at a full price. As you can see, this Robin is rather small. The main reason is because this character is supposed to be like 14 or 15, and I just couldn't justify it at that price point. Now, if you do the math, I basically spent $48 for the Robin and then $80 for the Batman. If I could have gotten at least $8 to $10 more off, I would have been perfectly happy with the price, but I do not recommend getting this for $150 or more. Now some of you guys are wondering why I believe this is overpriced. Well, the main issue is that it's a 2-pack. Unfortunately, that means that the accessories you get for each character are going to be very minimal. If these had been individual releases, we would have gotten more accessories with each character. Now unfortunately, they recreated a problem they did with the Batman Hush version, which was their first Batman, and that is that the plastic piece around the neck is actually glued to the body. So if you wish to replace the cape, you will have to break that off. As you can see, I actually removed the cape on my Batman Hush figure. The main reason that it was way too long, and I understand why they did it. In the comics it's drawn that way. Unfortunately, as an action figure, it's just really impractical. Makes it hard to put it anywhere on your display. And since I'm showing you my Batman figures, I might as well tell you that when it comes to Batman, I actually prefer him to be gray and blue instead of gray and black. Personally, I always find that very boring. Unfortunately, I wish we had more live action blue Batmans, as right now I think the only one we have is Adam West. Alright, and now I'm going to show off the accessories. This 2-pack comes with 4 Batarangs, and as far as I can tell, each one is identical. Now what's really cool is that if you want to display your Batman without the mask, they actually give you an alternate neck piece to go along with it. And now here is an angry face. Now this is the head that the figure comes by default, and it is an unhappy neutral face. And yes, I am aware that's a contradiction, but it's Batman. Being unhappy, that's basically his neutral face. Now this piece, you put it around his neck. It's basically for when you want to display Batman without his mask on. Alright, and these are his fists. These are his open hands. These are his holding hands, mainly for his Batarangs. And these are a second pair of fists. And yes, this figure does come with 2 pairs of fists, but the main difference is that with one pair, the thumb is actually more open. And lastly, here are the hands that the figure comes by default. Now luckily, swapping the necks is actually pretty easy. All you gotta do is pull it back. And that's how he looks with the mask off. Now something that you've probably noticed is that throughout the figure he does have some shading. Now this is personal preference, but in my opinion they actually did the shading better on this figure than they did with the Batman Hush. When it came to their Batman Hush, in my opinion they overdid it. When it comes to shading, I prefer it to be on the lighter side. Now when it comes to Mafex, the articulation here is pretty standard. Unfortunately, that does mean that for the legs it won't have any thigh rotation, but at least you do get arm rotation and a butterfly joint. And there goes the hand. And as you can see, the chest and stomach are both on ball joints. Now here's a very annoying thing with the figure. When it comes to the yellow belt, both on his waist and on his leg, they're both glued on. Unfortunately, this figure cannot do the splits, and while I was editing this video, you see that knife around his leg? That actually comes off. I was not aware of that when I was recording. Not to mention the foot also has toe articulation, and when it comes to its knee articulation, it's honestly, it could be better. And this is about as far forward and backwards the legs can go. As you can see, when it comes to this figure, the lower half of the body, that's where the articulation is at its worst. Unfortunately, I wish these legs were actually better. Now when it comes to this figure bending, it's one of those figures where it can bend way better backwards than it does forward. However, there is a caveat. When it comes to the figure bending backwards, there's actually a gap that forms in between the chest and the stomach. So if you're going to be displaying the figure from the front, you're going to have to limit it. Alright, and now it's time to show off my favorite part of this 2-pack. This is Robin, aka Carrie Kelly. This right here is the head that the figure will come by default. And this one is the alternate. The main difference between this one is the hair, which is windswept. And just so you guys are aware, the glasses are now removable. And for those of you wondering, this is what the hair for the default head looks like from the back. Now this figure comes with 3 pairs of hands. You got open hands, batarang holding hands, and lastly hands to hold her weapon, which is a slingshot. And when it comes to the slingshot, you actually get 2 versions, one where you got it pulled all the way to the back, and these are the hands that it comes by default. They're just a pair of fists. You know, minus the butterfly joints. I'm actually quite impressed with this figure. Due to how small it is, I'm actually surprised how good the articulation is. And even her small cape is wired just like Batman's, which is pretty cool. The butterfly joints on this figure are pretty useless, like they barely give you any extra range. And yes, the stomach and chest are on a ball joint, and the neck is also double jointed. And luckily the leg articulation on this figure is actually better than Batman's, and it still has toe joints. However, when it comes to making this figure do the splits, as you can see, this thing basically has something that functions like a skirt, and even though it is made of a soft plastic, it's not soft enough, and it pretty much hinders it. You can easily remove it if you want, and it will improve the articulation. However, there is no piece in between those 2 things, so you'll basically just have a giant gap in between the body and the legs. Now, if you've seen my video on the Jetta Toys Street Fighter Cammy, you know that when it comes to the legs, I always prefer when they sculpt the cheeks directly onto them, and I am glad that they did that with this figure. However, they also did it on the underwear piece, and unfortunately it does cover up the cheeks a bit. I would have preferred it they just did it 100% with just the legs. Because that piece is there, when you articulate the legs, it'll basically cover it up and give it an unnatural shape. And here's what the figure looks without the skirt piece, and for obvious reasons, it's not ideal. And here is a cheek comparisons. As you can see, it's definitely better than the Mafex Gwenpool, however, it's not as good as the Jita Toys Cammy. Hopefully when Mafex get around to making another female character in the DC line, I hope it's closer to the Jita Toys Cammy figure. Alright, and now it's time for the size comparisons. Here is the Jita Toys Street Fighter Cammy and Guile figure. And here is the Mafex Gwenpool and Mafex Batman Hush. And here is the Power Rangers Lightning Collection Street Fighter crossover Chun-Li and Ryu. The Power Rangers Lightning Collection RPM Yellow and Lightspeed Rescue Blue Ranger. My third party SH Figure Art Zeno Goku and Zeno Vegeta. And lastly, my SH Figure Arts Kamen Rider Saber and my Figurized Kamen Rider 01. Thank you guys for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I'll be uploading more soon. I'll see you guys later. Bye.